So this video is a continuation from the last video, which was importing a function as a module. So this is the import which we did, and there was a file which we created in jobs, and it's called function test, where we have our function. So instead of doing it as a function, this time I'm going to do it as a class object, and I'll import it into the same test. So what I'll do, I'll just create another test. And I'll call that class var. So what we'll do, we'll get a variable, and I'll just don't do anything for the moment, and I'll just go over here to our classes, and first of all I need to create a file. So I'll just do a tree, and the file that I'm going to create is going to be in this folder. So let's just create that, and I'll call that class test.py. So this is going to be our module, and here we have the file. So I can now go back and my file appears, and we'll just create a class, and I'm just going to call that test. And within our test we need to define, well, we don't need to, but I am going to define a constructor. And we pass self to all of our methods, and I will be passing a dictionary. So if you've followed along with my older videos, you'll notice that I've got this habit of passing a dictionary into the constructor of a class, and the reason why I do that is so that I can avoid having to pass many arguments and having to, change things later on by adding or taking away arguments, and then having to change other places within my code. So if I just pass one parameter, which is a dictionary, I have the choice of either leaving it empty or making it bigger with additional keys and values later on. So that just makes it flexible. Okay, so let's create a method. So we'll just have a constructor, and we'll have a method, and I'll call that my method. And again, we need to pass self, and self is very similar to in some languages you don't pass anything like this, and in some you would pass a keyword called this, and it allows you to carry values, objects and values throughout your class, inside your class. So I will pass my string, very similar to what I pass in the function, and I'll give it a data type string. So that's what we'll accept, and we'll output a string. So I will return an f string, and I'll say my class method returns my string. Okay. Alright, so let's just go back to the constructor, and just so that we can see, everything which I pass in the dictionary, I'll say self. So you need to set it to self. Config equals config, and then in addition to that, I'll pass a variable to my first test. So I will say self dot, and I'll pass a timestamp equals time dot time, and this is just going to be a regular timestamp, numeric timestamp, and just for milliseconds I will times it by 1000 with a decimal. I can take that decimal off actually, because I'm going to convert it to an integer, or I can just leave it, doesn't really matter. And since I'm referencing the time library, I need to import time, but in addition to that I will import OS and sys like I usually do, as well as time. Okay, and then what I'll also do, I won't return the timestamp. I'll only return my string, but I'll print out the timestamp. So let's do a print statement, and it will be again an F string, my class constructor variable, and it's going to be self.config. Okay, and I think that should work. So let's give it a little test. And so it will be Python 3 tests test modules. Let's just copy that quickly. And instead of running the function test, I'm going to run this test. Just go down here for a sec. So it's going to be test class var. And again, I will set it to verbose. And it's going to come from the class test, which is this one, test my test. Okay. Okay, so everything runs okay. And first of all, what I need to do up here is import my class. So I'm just going to import it the regular way. And it's going to be very similar to how I imported the function. So from the same place, it's gonna we're in this folder, MyPython, or shall I say this MyPython folder or directory is a module, and we're gonna do the dot notation for this directory, and then we're gonna get the module which is inside this directory. So it will be MyPython classes import what this file is without the extension. Okay, let's just run that again, make sure everything is okay, and it is okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do, because I'm printing that constructor, I'm going to just run the class. So I'll say class test, so this is my module, and the name of the class is test with a capital T at the front, and in the constructor I'm going to leave it empty, and then I'm going to get my method, and my method, oops, sorry, I'm not going to get my method because I'm going to get the variable. So the variable was timestamp. Okay. Alright, so could take that off because there's no argument. Okay, so I think that should work, and let's just run that test. So, but before I do, because I'm getting that variable, let's put it into a variable. Or I could just print it, to be honest. Print the whole thing. Okay, let's run that. Okay, so there's our timestamp. So let's just revisit that. So I'm calling an instance of that class. The constructor is empty, it's just an empty dictionary, and I'm just calling the variable. So the variable I've set as a, I've initialized that. So that's pretty much it. That's as easy as it is. Let's just go back here, because now what I want to do is interact with that method. So let's do another one. Let's just copy that. And I'll call that, I'll just call that class method. Okay. So with this one, it's going to be quite similar to the one above. So again, I'll just say print class test, and in the constructor, I'll give it a key, and I'll say my value. And then the argument, it's going to be my method as well as an argument, and in that argument I'll say oi bruv, you alright. Okay, and I think I'll just print that as well. No, actually I will return it, because not only am I printing, then I'm also returning something as well. So we'll get both. We'll get output for both. Okay, let's try that. But first of all, I need to do the right test. Okay, so it says test my class has no attribute test class because it is called class method. And it has no attribute class method. Okay, oh sorry, that's what it should be. Okay, so there we go. We've got the output. So this is the constructor, and I've also got the string. Oi bruv, you're right. And I've added that to a f string, which gives me this full output. Okay, so this is what I'm printing out inside the class, and this is what I'm printing out as a return to my test. Okay, now what I'm going to show you is something a little bit more advanced. So we're going to get rid of this, and we'll just put it down here, and let's just comment that out for a sec. And so you might want to, instead of specifying the class, the import of the class, you might want to do that dynamically. So, if you do a lot of, how can I say, more sort of complex applications, and so you don't want to be very literal with typing out which object, what module you need to get. What you want to do is you probably want to do it dynamically. So you've got something in your code, you could be doing some sort of list comprehension or something, and you want to grab a class or a method, and you want to do it in a dynamic kind of way by using a string, right? So this is the other bit which I'll show you, and let's call this something different. We're going to use something which is called get attribute, and you'll see me use this quite a bit a lot later. And to mutable languages like Python, you'll see exactly how this really does come in handy. But first of all, I'll show you how it works. So let's just comment out this, and we'll come back to this. Alright, so we're going to do something up here, and what we need to do is just think about this for a sec. No, we don't need to do anything up there. We're just going to do it down here. So I'm going to import a library, but however, I will import the library up here. So we'll just do another import, and the library is going to be import lib. And so that allows us to dynamically import libraries. So this dot notation up here, over here, we're going to do that as a string, and so we'll say import lib dot import module, and we'll use that dot notation string. So it's going to be my Python dot classes dot class test. Okay. And we'll set it to module, and we'll just print that out. And just get the test. Okay, so here you can see that we've dynamically imported the module, and that makes it easier because you don't really want to type this out all the time. You don't know, you could have a load of classes and you don't know which one you're going to really import, and you just really want to do it dynamically, right? Okay, and you'll see me do that a lot later. So now that we've got the module, we need to specify the name. So the name of the class is going to be test, and the name of the method, so I'll just say method equals my method. Okay, alright, so I'm going to create a class object first. So the class object will be using get attribute. So get attribute, and it takes parameters. So it's going to be the module, and it's going to be the name of the class. and then the class also has a constructor. And I'm just going to leave that constructor empty for the moment. And let's print that out. Okay, so name test is not defined, so let's just go back and take a look. It needs to have quotations around it, and we're still getting an error, so get attribute is not defined because it's get attribute. Okay, and oh, sorry, wrong place. There we go. So here we have our object, which is that test class. So we've got the name, and we've got the module. And let's get rid of this. And what we can do, we can now do another get attribute. And with the get attribute, we've got the object, and also we have the method. So this takes two, get attribute takes two parameters. So it's going to be you know, an object, and then, you know, whatever you're calling from that object, and then at the end of it you're going to have parameters, sorry, not parameters, arguments, right? So in that argument we'll have exactly what I put in here. Oi bruv, you alright? And then I'll put that into a result. And then I'll print it. And we should get the same working result. Okay, so my constructor was empty, and then I got what was returned from that class method. Okay, and you can also do it like this as well. So I just wanted to space it out onto two lines so you can kind of get the gist of what it does. So what we can do, we can do this. So let's just comment that out. So we can have in that object, we can just do this, just copy this and replace object with it. And if you're like me and you like one-liners, that's a much better way to go. So again, we can just do key value if we want to pass something in the constructor. And we can run that again. Okay, so there is key, my val, and then we've got again the return of the argument. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to show you, and you know, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing a lot of this stuff a lot later. So I just thought if I just do small little videos showing how I do this and you know what it means, and then I can show you how useful it's going to be a lot later. All right, take care.